Hey guys, welcome back to the 6th episode of the Inside with LPY. We are starting a new series today called Real Talk, Take the Flame of the Tongue, and it's talking about how small words make a big impact. So today we have our first table with us. So are y'all ready for my first question?
Yes.
Okay. So my first question is, let me pull up my questions. Okay. It is, how can we use small words to reflect Christ and what's going on in our hearts and minds?
I feel like the words we use represent who we are as a person. Like, say I'm speaking negatively.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Negatively about people all the time, and I'm always gossiping, and I'm just like making people feel down. That wouldn't really prove who I am and how I'm a Christian. But if I speak up about people and like I use my words in a good way and I'm kind to people, that'll show them that reflects who I am as a person and how I have my walk with Jesus. And it also influences other people to want to be also a better Christian.
If you speak your mind, then your mind should reflect your heart, and your heart should reflect Christ.
Oh, okay.
I was preparing that in my head the whole time she was talking.
I'm so sorry, my phone just went off. My phone just told me to take my anxiety meds. LOL. Okay. Kaylee, do you have anything to say?
Can you repeat the question?
Okay. How can we use small words to reflect Christ and what's going on in our hearts and minds?
Something Pastor Matt says a lot. That sounds kind of funny, but it's a good thought about like what comes out when you get squeezed.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to say that with a straight face. but it's talking about like in the moment.
No, it was this.
It's talking about what do you do out of instinct,
Yeah.
or if someone makes you angry, what do you say out of anger?
Mm-hmm.
Or if somebody makes you sad, what do you say out of sad? So
Yeah.
it's about being able to control your tongue, because how you react should kind of reflects
How? Yeah. That's what I was basically gonna say was like the way that you act, like how they say like whoever your people are, like that's who you are. Like what is that saying?
You're most like the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yeah, the people you like, how the people you surround yourself with matters. And like this saying that I heard recently was like the tree falls the way it's leaning or something like that. I don't know. I think it's from like the Lorax or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
No, wait, I'm just
Right?
I'm not saying I'm just listening to what you're saying. I'm thinking about what you're saying.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I think like Kaylee said, like the way that you speak and the way you act sums you up as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very important, and I think we have gotten so used to the saying like I'm just living at this point, and like I'm just taking it day by day. But like you really have to make sure that what you're saying and what you're doing reflects Christ, and you have to make sure that Jesus, or that people can see Jesus shine through you, because that's what's like most important. And then what my small group leader Ashley said tonight, she said how someone came up to her one time and was like, do you cuss in church? And she's like, no, because like no one cusses at church, like because someone would say something. But then they were like, well, then anywhere you go, you need to act like it's church. Mm-hmm. You need to act like you're at church wherever you go. Because when you're at church, you're not going to do things that you do on the weekends, and you're not going to do things that you like,
That's my motto. If you wouldn't say it at church, you shouldn't say it at all.
Oh, that's good. If you wouldn't say it at church, you shouldn't say it at all.
Or if you wouldn't do it at church. If you wouldn't say it or do it at church, you shouldn't say or do it at all.
That's
whatever is more relevant.
That's a good point.
I actually said it multiple times just today.
That's a great point. Does anyone else have anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to go off what she said, just like how somebody squeezes you something or something about that. Like I feel like a lot of times we are very kind to people. We may think that we're being kind to people, we're sweet in the moment, but the second somebody says something that squeezes us, or like,
Oh
especially
yeah,
just
that's a
takes
good
us to the
point.
nerve, it immediately makes us like angry. Like we want to say something back and like make an argument basically. So that's what I saw off like what she said.
And to also bring up something Clay said earlier, is your words are a window into who you are. So that's kind of why we might brush off the things we say, because if we don't, that's kind of why I had such a cohesive thought in my head. um, that's why we might brush off the negative things we
Mhm.
say, because we feel like oh, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. That actually follows up to my next question. If no one has anything to say for that first question, my next question is why do we think we tend to focus more on what people say to us rather than what we say to people?
Because it affects us. Our lives are all about us because we're humans and we're selfish. And so we're also just not naturally very good on the words we. Oh, come on. We're not very good at reflecting on the things we say.
Yeah, like we just don't think about it as much
we
as.
don't think about other people's feelings.
Yeah,
Because
that, yes, that makes sense. Is ours.
It's hard to feel other people's feelings.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes it's really hard, especially when you don't mean for, like, say you like say something and it hurts someone's feelings, but like your intentions weren't to hurt their feelings, and so like you're not thinking of what you're saying because your intention wasn't to hurt them, right? You know what I mean?
Or if you say something and it hurts them, but you might never know that it hurts them.
Especially if like they never say anything about it, which like, you know, that's very hard because I've been on like both sides of that, like those types of situations. Like someone has said something to me and it's hurt me, but I've never spoken up about it, or I have said something to someone intending to, you know, just like a tough love type of thing maybe, or like I don't know, whatever it was, and they told me about it. My intentions weren't to hurt them. So sometimes it's just like, you know, even.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, just as humans, like whenever we define ourselves, we don't think of like what comes out of our mouths, but we think of what other people say about us. If somebody comes up to you and says that you're rude, you're gonna think about that way more than if you say something rude out of your mouth.
Oh, that's a really good point. Okay, I thought you had something to say.
May I ask a question again?
Question was why do you think we tend to focus more on what other people say to us rather than what we say to people?
I feel like we don't see what we say wrong in the moment, and so we actually. Okay, imagine you say something very mean to somebody, and then you're like, "Oh, I wasn't intending to hurt you. Like that was just a joke." But you wouldn't like it the second somebody does it to you, because like once they say something, like I always say, about like treat people how you want to be treated, because you would never treat yourself like that if you were another person. Like you would never walk up to yourself and be like, "Oh, I hate you. You're so ugly." But you would do it in an instant to somebody else, because your words don't affect you, but your words affect many other people other around you.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Also, on that note, like if you wouldn't say something, it's kind of not on that note, it's kind of off topic, but if you wouldn't say something mean to somebody else, then don't say it to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Too. So
That is a good
that's
point.
what
Haley. I think like Haley said, like we're just like it's just in our nature to what's the word, to like be selfish, you know? And I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted.
You got it.
It's just in our nature to like be selfish. And we just like whenever we say something, we don't even think about how it's gonna make the other person feel. We don't think about that. So I don't even know where I'm going with this. I'm so
You got it.
scatterbrained right now.
Because I don't know. I didn't have a thought. Well, but because yeah, Ava knows what she's gonna say.
I wrote this in my notes from the lesson, But it's just ask yourself if your daily words reflect who you are or who you want to be. And if the answer is no, then you shouldn't be saying those things.
Which is
that is a lot easier said than done.
yeah,
Yes.
like that's something that takes work. That's something that takes discipline. Because if you're changing your words, you're kind of changing who you are in a sense. You know, because if we don't like the things we say, that means we don't necessarily like the stage we're in,
Right.
or what we represent. And so, if you truly want to represent Jesus, that means you need to start growing closer to Jesus, which is something that
I think also like your relationship with Christ just plays a big part in this, because when you like grow a relationship with God, you're more aware of the things that you do wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so like talking bad about people and saying hurtful things is something that you're fully aware of, because like I say that like from experience. I was talking to Carissa about how like I like gossip is like such a huge thing now, right? Especially like in high school and stuff. And sometimes people are like, well, it's not gossip if it's true. But that's not the point. It's like you're still talking about it and it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Sometimes like, it's I don't know how to explain it. That could like get I don't know. But anyway, scratch that. Scratch what I just said. That your relationship with God just plays a huge part, because the closer I grew to God, the more I was aware of what I was saying and what I was doing, and how, because I've played both, or because I've been in both sides of like gossip, people saying things about me saying things about people, it's not good being on either side. So it just like in the end, regardless, you need to at least be aware of what you're saying is like.
Yes, being aware of what. Oh my gosh, yes.
At least being aware of it is something.
Being aware of your words.
And again, it's easier said than done.
Yes.
It's 100% easier said than done.
A good step towards that is being aware of what
yes.
you're saying. And school is an environment where people just talk however they want, and it's funny to cuss other people out, and like there's friends that'll just talk like that without even, because it doesn't affect them anymore.
Right.
They don't really think about what they're saying, and so that's why our words are so important, because in environments like that where they just talk like that without thinking about it, they might notice our words and how they're different, and that could take an effect on them.
That also has to, Annalise, you have been by that microphone for forever, honey. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The whole time when I'm at school, I just like every time I'm about to do something rude or something that I know I definitely wouldn't, I'm gonna regret later. I just always think to myself, would I want everybody at this table or even Clay watching me do this right now?
Yeah.
Like whenever I'm literally about to push somebody in front of me in the hallway because they're not walking fast enough.
Oh, that's so real. That's so real, though.
I need to watch my movements because there's always somebody around me watching me and watching what I do.
Yes.
And even like what you repost on TikTok or what you say on Snapchat to your friends, it always gets out there. Like it's public forever. Like you can't take it back once it's done. Like there's always somebody who's gonna find out about it or even tell everybody else about it. So just before you do something, think about, would you want people to view you as this kind of person, or would you want to be viewed as a nicer person?
And I think we also talked about how we say so many things flippantly, which means like just, I don't know.
Vocabulary word of the day.
Yeah, flippantly.
Flippantly. Oh my gosh, I died when he said that. Is that even a word?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is, but we say so many things flippantly instead of thinking about like, does this even impact the conversation whatsoever?
Or it's this.
Okay. Or what's like, or whether it's important to the world, or just we say so many things and we don't think about if they have value or not.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. And also, what I was going to touch on what Kaylee said earlier was how, like, at school, I think that's definitely one of the hardest places to. Well, for me, it was for a really long time to watch what I was saying and to watch what I was doing, especially what I was saying, because, like Annalise said, someone could be watching us. You could, and like in the last episode, I was talking about how sometimes I can forget that I'm someone's example of Christianity.
Right.
So like I said, growing your relationship with God, even when you are out of those habits on the things that you said or the things that you did, doing them now that you're closer to God, you just feel like, what's the word? You like just know that it's wrong. You just know that it's wrong, that you feel so convicted doing it, and so much guilt doing it, and shame, and all these words that are being thrown at me. But it's especially in environments where it's funny to cuss people out, and it's funny to not even think about what you're going to say, and it's funny to be hateful, and or like it just things like that are normalized. It's definitely easier said than done, but that those are the environments that you definitely have to watch what you're doing and what you're saying.
Not sure.
Oh.
Especially because school is filled with like temptation.
Oh, that's yes.
And Jesus says we're a city on a hill, and so that implies like people are going to be looking at us. And I know we've talked about this on this podcast before. Actually, I was like literally talking about it with Adri, but if we're repeating it, that means it's important, as I say.
True.
But like we represent Christ, and we say that a lot, so we forget about how deep and powerful that is.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone who might not know Christ at all, who associates you with Christianity and Jesus, like you are their only idea of Jesus, which means like I can't remember what series, it was a Sunday morning series, not LPY, that one morning touched on how there's no off days, which seems tiring, which seems daunting, but really, if we just let Christ live through us and remember that it's not our own efforts, like we can live a fruitful life where people will notice, like, man, they seem so joyful, they seem so peaceful, they seem, their words are kind and their words bring life to others, so yeah, we talk about that a lot, and then sometimes we mention how it seems tiring to have to do that every day and keep that image every day. But we also have to remember, if we're truly growing closer to Jesus, and we truly want Him to live through us, like it's Him, not us.
Right. And also, like you said, it sometimes seems tiring, but like when you're in that position of where you are close to God, it's not tiring. Like you don't even realize it's tiring because you're just living. Exactly. You're literally just living, and you're living a great life, knowing that you're at a high in that moment. So it like you'll have your bad days, but it seems more tiring when you're not doing it.
What?
Yes.
It seems tiring when you're not doing it. Like,
y'all
know
like,
what I
mean? When you're not living that life.
When you're not living your life, it
daunting.
seems
right. It seems tiring.
When you're not. Yes.
And really, it's not. Not that you won't have bad days. Not that you won't,
Right.
Not that life isn't hard, but
because life's hard.
Yes.
It's not like
life is hard.
No, really? Oh my God.
Life is hard. Had to repeat it because it was that important.
Breaking
news, guys. Life is hard. If no one knew,
no one has ever said that on
it's
before.
Like literally nobody's like saying that you're never gonna make a mistake, you're never gonna like show an example for Christ, because like she said, sometimes we do forget that we are examples of Christ. But you can always repent for it. Like it shouldn't be consistent. Like you should be able to know right from wrong and be able to like change your actions from it and go to that person who's struggling with them and be able to tell them like that was just, like, I was just in a bad moment. Like obviously you're not perfect. Like we still sin, but it should not be as consistent. Like it shouldn't be like every single day. And like if you ever see somebody like being rude, just imagine what they're going through or how they're feeling. Like, it's not always, even if it's not you being rude and it's somebody else being rude, you should still show them your example because they may need your example in the moment.
Okay, one of my other, does anyone else have anything to say on that question? No? Okay, perfect. So one of my other questions are, what are sometimes it's hard to control what we say? And I know Annalise, or Kaylee, someone touched on this a bit and was saying how, or no, Annalise, you were saying how it's like hard sometimes to control what you're saying when, you're walking in the hall in front of someone.
Or behind someone.
I mean, behind someone that's walking so slow. It's definitely hard to control what you're saying when it's like normalized.
Like, it's literally common sense. Like, I can't.
And I think it's so hard to control what you're saying when you're in an argument. That's what I was talking about in my small group, because when you're in an argument, you're not thinking of like, oh, what can I do to make sure I don't say anything mean or don't say anything I'm going to regret, because in the moment you're just, that's just not something you're thinking about, you know? Who was it? I think it was Rachel that said that. She was like, in the moment or in the argument, like, I know I'm not thinking of what's something nice that I can say or something. I don't even know, but I think arguments are definitely some of the times that it's hard to control what we say.
I think if you're being tempted either by people or Satan, really, like if people around you are talking bad about people or just saying not nice things, it's easier to do that when you're surrounded by people that do those things. Like, that's how temptation works, in case you didn't know.
Breaking news. The barn was red. The barn
barn
was red.
Most
So-
of the time,
Sorry, you go.
most of the time, a lot of people that try to get to you, including the devil, because I feel like the devil literally walks on earth. I'm just saying that. Like, I feel like there's people actually.
He's lurking all the time, I swear.
Definitely people sent from the devil, and like they can be changed, but still, I feel like many people.
That's a crazy statement.
No, like people, like you can be sent. I don't. That sounds so mean to say.
I don't think they're sent by the devil. I just think that some things that happen in your life that other people do were actions from the devil.
Like I don't.
Oh, yes. Snaps all around, snaps all around, snaps all around.
Because there's no, like, the devil is just already
Sorry. Jada.
Jada just laid across the table
I was asking what you said, so.
She said, she was saying how she doesn't think they're sent by the devil, but sometimes actions make them act that way that are sent by the devil.
Yeah, nobody is sent by the devil.
Right.
Well, hold on. Something that one of the first revolutionary thoughts that has ever occurred to me was one time Pastor Matt said in a sermon, "The devil has just as many plans for your life as God does."
As God, yes. Oh my gosh, that was so good. That was so good.
That was the first time I heard something in a sermon, and I was like,
Oh, I don't. That's definitely not the first time. Matt actually whips it up in the kitchen very, very frequently.
that was like
Sometimes he
one
says
of the first
so many
times
good
I
things.
heard him.
You had heard him say something that you were like, wow.
So that was like
Right.
one of the first, I was like,
That's like he has the same amount of plans that God has for us, and that just like changes my entire perspective on everything.
That's
like
why
that's insane.
So careful to stay on the path God has for you.
Right, because
Satan
like
is after you all the time.
like
There's always a left and a right on the road.
Those are some words that have impacted me. Those are some words.
I also, like Jada was saying, that's why like being on God's path is so important. And not that you're not gonna, go out of your way.
Yeah, every person in the Bible besides Jesus went off the path.
Right. Not that's what I meant to say. Not that you're gonna go off of the path, that you're not not gonna go off of the path.
Yeah. You got
But also being aware that you need to stay on the path. You know?
Mhm.
Um,
Also have to be aware.
right. And like, because the devil will do absolutely anything to tempt you and to have you commit that sin.
Mhm.
Because he is after you just as much as God is after you. Wait, that didn't sound right. He's
Yes, it
after
does.
you.
That's not right.
He's after you just as much as.
I don't know if
I don't know if God did like send his only son to die for you. But you know,
Right.
I get what you're saying, but
Like not like what I'm like trying to say, like, just like he has the same amount of plans that he has for you. He wants to reach you just as much as God wants to reach you. That's what I was.
That's good.
Yes.
I was saying,
I
like,
don't know though.
I don't know if Clay said this, but like he's like, I don't know who said it, but like, you can't be like getting pulled towards God and then also getting pulled towards sin because there's
That's called being lukewarm.
there's two people reach towards you.
I don't know.
I think Anna Ruth told me that.
I don't know if I completely agree with that statement. That's my personal opinion. I don't know if there's anything biblical that
Get out.
is
I'm just kidding.
But you know, like Jada said, like God did send Jesus for us. So I don't know if saying that. Like, Jada, this is not
I'm
the
sorry,
time.
but I need to know.
But didn't Jesus also?
Jada just, for those of you who missed that, Jada just laid across the table and was like, "Do we have a pilot?" I can't remember.
I think it's Friday.
Okay. Sure. Okay, go.
Anyways, that's pretty much it. Like God, I don't know if I agree with that statement because God sent Jesus, whereas Satan.
Right. Yes, I get what you're saying. Though.
Jesus also, like, literally, people forget that Jesus used to love the devil, or maybe still does love the devil. Like, the devil used to be with Jesus. Like,
Used to be an angel.
yeah, he used to be
Was
an
an angel.
angel.
Jesus does not.
Used to be an angel.
He was an angel. So, like, it's not that Jesus, like, of course, Jesus still probably cares about him. I'm sure.
Right. Okay. Anyone else have to speak on that question? Because I have one more question and then we're going to have to take our break. No one?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Kaylee has been waiting
Oh my gosh,
for
I was
this
like,
Before we
question.
started,
I don't
he
know
knows
the
I
question.
did it.
We're not
Yes.
going to hear from anybody else.
Okay, so the question is, what is the most impactful thing someone has said to you, good or bad, no matter what it is? What is that? And of course, Kaylee.
This one time, I believe I was in.
Wait, good or bad? Okay. Okay.
In like 7th or 8th grade, I was talking to my dad, and he was like just checking in on my life, and he was asking me like how my relationships with my friends were going, and you know I was just honest with him, and I was like, Dad, nobody ever texts me. I'm always texting people first. I don't have any close friends, and he said something. Not everything's about you, Jada.
Oh, okay.
Hey, what? And he said, well, maybe that person looks forward to getting that positive text from you. Like, you might be that only.
Oh, that's
that
a good
person's only
point.
source of positivity.
Positivity.
And that completely changed the way I interacted with people.
That's a really good point. Your dad is my king.
Let me
Love
tell
him.
you.
Let me that be Jesus.
Jesus is also my king. Okay, Kaylee, go.
But like I was always pretty nice to people, but from that point on, I always made sure to smile at people, whether or not I knew them. If I was just passing them on the street, I made sure to say something nice about somebody every time I talked to them. It completely changed the way I talk to people every single
That's a
time.
really good point.
And I think I've kind of started to shift away from that. Like people used to say about me, like I was the nicest person they knew, which that sounds very pompous. Of me to say, but now I don't feel like people would say that of me anymore, and I don't know if that's necessarily good thing, because I say a lot more negative things than I used to.
Well, I don't think that's like a bad thing. I mean, being negative isn't necessarily a good thing, aka like, but I like the phrase I like to use a lot is you're human, and it's okay.
Yes.
But not to the point where it's like you sinned back to back and after you repented and then abused God forgiving you and I'm like, I'm human, it's okay. No, it's not.
And I don't think my dad still to this day, I don't think I've still told him that to this
That
day.
it's like affected you?
Like, my parents always raised me to like be kind to people and show the love of Jesus towards others. But that one time he phrased it in that way completely changed my life.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I have
I'm
something.
gonna tell him. I'm gonna be like, Dad, I changed my life this one time in 7th grade and you don't even know.
I have something. I have something good and something bad. So, something good. Actually, let me say my something bad. My something bad is one time I got told that I care too much and that this is when Adri was not. Yeah.
How old was Adrian?
This was like a year or two ago.
Okay.
No, this was like a year ago.
Adrian was like 15.
Adri was 15 at the
Okay.
time. But anyway,
Very typical age.
anyway, I was told by a guy that I cared too much, and I was told that I can never take a joke, and just all of this, all of these things that were told to me, and so it completely made me think of of like having a big heart is such a good thing, but it made me think of the negative things of having a big heart. Does that make sense?
Like
instead of
that you care too much, so you started to care too much.
right, not necessarily, but like I like told a good friend of mine like everything that was said to me, and then they were like, "But you have such a big heart, and that's such a good thing." Like that was one of the good things. It's like I often get told that I'm being dramatic. That's one of the bad things too, is like, but like not being dramatic in like, obviously in like a dumb way, and where you're like making a big deal out of something and you're just being dramatic, like,
Not being dramatic for attention, being dramatic because you care.
right.
I love it when somebody says, like, it gives you like a subtle compliment that contradicts like something really negative that somebody once said about you in your mind that you've thought about ever since.
Right.
And they don't even know how like a big impact that had on you. Like the other day, somebody, or I just feel like our whole family has a little ongoing thing of I always feel like I smell terrible. I just always feel like I smell terrible. But then the other day, somebody told me I smelled good, and that was the best compliment I've ever received. And they don't even know what a big like impact that had on me.
Even
One time, I asked somebody what like made me different from other people, or like something they noticed about me, and they told me that I was so pure. Like that word.
I like that word. I love that word. I've never actually even thought like how that word is like, But what was I was leading to the dramatic thing. It was like a late night with my best friend, and we were just talking, and I was ranting and I was crying and whatever. And I was just talking about how like I grew up like emotionally, it was like weird. I don't know how to like explain it. Love you, mom, love you, dad. But I was always told you're being dramatic. It was like a suck it up type of thing, whatever. And my best friend told me, she was like, but what if you're being dramatic because you have a big heart, because you care, and because you have like big feelings, and that's a good thing. Sometimes that can hurt you and that can be a bad thing, but there's so many positives to it. And so ever since then, I've gotten to the point where like I know that there may be a situation where I can like get hurt, but it's okay because I have a big heart and because I care.
Yes,
That's self-love type of thing. I love you too, Kaylee. Does anyone else have anything to speak on before we take our break?
Happy birthday, Clay.
Oh yes, it's Clay's birthday! It is in fact Clay's birthday.
Snaps from Clay's birthday.
Snaps all around for Clay.
Fun fact, I can't snap.
You can't snap?
It's like, it's sad snaps. I can do double snap.
Oh,
Oh,
you're not cool.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I love you, Kaylee.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up, take our break, and then come back with table 2. Everyone say bye to our first table.
Bye, table 1.
Can't do anything about it.
Hey guys! So we're back from this break. This is a little Adrian Anna Ruth segment.
Yeah.
So Adrian's eating itchy bun. So yummy. Shout out to Desi. Thank you. So Anna Ruth, what were your thoughts about tonight's sermon?
It was awesome. It was great. Everything I could have ever imagined. That's not sarcastic, that's actually.
Yeah, it sounded a little sarcastic.
It was good. It was good. I saw what Clay said about how he said at the end, don't just wake up tomorrow and be like, I'm not gonna say, I'm gonna use my words wisely. You can't do that. It takes intentionality and self-control.
And being aware. We were
aware.
talking about that, how being aware is a step and how that's a really big deal.
Because if you don't think anything's wrong with the things that you're saying, the things that you're saying are never going to change.
Ooh, okay. So if no one knows that inside joke, basically,
Watch episode 5 if you want to find
watch episode 5. Go back, subscribe, all that jazz. We talked about how Anna Ruth and I are always like, oh my gosh, when someone says something very like obvious.
We need our own podcast. Me and Adrian do.
Right. That's what.
We can find free time in the week, and if we can get that thing, like we can come in here and just record.
I think that this should be for like our little rant sessions, and then we. Yes. Oh my gosh. So basically, Anna Ruth and I need bottom lines for absolutely everything, and we yell and we're like, oh my gosh, and like yes, when something's very obvious and someone just like ties it into like a bottom line type of stuff, and so then Clay was like, that's like when someone says the barn is red, and y'all are like ah, and so that's why we say that. Okay, so that's the end of the Adrian Anna Ruth segment.
What?
We're gonna come back with
I
second
think
table.
The rest of this should just be.
Honestly, I think we should be the podcast.
We are the podcast.
We are the podcast. The barn is red. Hello guys, welcome back to the second table. It's Clay's birthday. Clay's birthday. Can you like make a little edit of yourself? You need to make the podcast edits a little more fun. You need to spice it up a little.
He probably doesn't have the time because I'm asking him every single second, when's the podcast gonna come out?
Podcast comes out every Monday. Every Monday podcast comes out. Well, he at least tries to get it out every Monday, by the way.
He does.
Hey.
It's not been a
Hey,
single Monday.
hey, and you have been doing fantastic. I'm so proud of you, youth pastor. Okay. Dude, oh my gosh, hold on. I'm sorry before we get into our little thing. So I was watching our 5th episode, our last episode, and was watching the part where you were like saying something about how like if you have to make a man, the man is not made for you or whatever. And I was sitting like this waiting for you to give me a high five, and you never gave me one. And so I like posted it on my story because like you spit bars and it was so good. And then some girl slid up and was like, he left you hanging, and I was like, I didn't even realize, and so I was kind of hurt by it. Okay, anyways, so we're gonna start off with our very first question, and it is, how can we use small words to reflect Christ and what is going on in our hearts and minds?
Say that again.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just shorten it up. How can we use small words to reflect Christ and what's going on in our hearts and our minds? All right then. Desi, what are you cooking up over there?
First thing that came to mind was that it's not always talking about Christ or talking about God. It could just be like hey, you're doing great. Like, I see the effort. Like, or like, I love you. Or like, you're cared about. Or just like little things like that. That's not even bringing up Jesus or bringing up God, but that's still representing His love and His grace.
Breathing? Oh, Clay.
I think too, I mean, if we go on the opposite end of that spectrum, I think sometimes we try to use like direct words for Christ to camouflage garbage. Like, so for example,
Ooh, yes.
I'm trying to determine, like, figure out a way to word what I'm about to say. Um, I experienced an individual. Who did not act very Christ-like. And then afterwards said something along the lines of, I just like to, live for Christ, do everything I can, and it was literally to cover up the garbage that he just done. So, I think sometimes we try to hijack your small words for Christ for the purpose of covering up garbage.
Or like when you don't want to actually help someone, or like not when you don't actually want to help someone, but you know when like you're like talking to someone like, oh, I'm going through this, and they're like, pray about it. And like, yes, always talk to God about your problems. But when someone's talking to you, or when you're talking to someone you don't want to hear, just pray about it. And like that would be a bad ending it, like, hey, like I'm here for you, like blah 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 blah. But
How can I
but
pray for you?
yeah, how can I pray for you? But don't forget to pray. Like God's always
Right,
God's
yeah.
always hearing you instead of just praying about it. You know, because that's like it's like because when someone says, hey, just pray about it. To me, I translate that to I don't really care what you're talking about. You're wasting my time. I want to get this conversation over with, and I don't really value you. You know,
That's a
instead of
good
just,
point, yes.
like helping.
Anna Marie?
Can you repeat the question?
How can we use small words to reflect Christ and what's going on in our hearts and minds?
This came up in my head when you were talking. It's not necessarily how to reflect Christ as much. I guess it is like if you say you're a Christian and you do like certain things, it doesn't reflect what I'm about to say. But
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's always. You mean when you said small words, like what do you mean, like just few words?
This was actually the question you told me to
Yeah, I
ask.
know. Don't really know what I meant,
So,
I think you mean like just the nature of words.
yeah, like how can we just use
Okay.
our,
You mean
our
like words
how can we just
like
use
two.
everyday words to
I
reflect
was just
Christ?
making sure I was on the right way. So I think literally from my message.
Yeah.
That's the question. But Andrew said, "Hey, what question should I use for the podcast?" And I said that.
Yeah, and I copied and pasted it, and
Anyways.
she's asking me what I mean.
Anyways, I think that it's not all the time so much about your words as it is like the way you say your words, like
Oh, that's a good point, yes.
the tone. Because if someone, like along with Desi's point, I'm gonna kind of counteract it a little bit. If someone, I'm coming to them with a problem, asking for advice, and we talk about it, and then they're like, I don't know, just pray about it. Like, maybe just pray about it. I'm gonna be like, okay, thanks. Not like what Desi said. But if they're like, well, have you prayed about it yet? You know, it's the way that they said it that changed the way that I viewed it. So that reflected Christ differently on them.
I think the answer to the question is somewhat the opposite of the question. I mean, like for example, like what we talked about tonight. So correct me again, repeat the question for the 48th time. But how can we use small words to reflect Christ in our hearts? Is that what it is?
To reflect Christ and what is going on in our hearts
Okay,
and minds.
yeah. So I would say the opposite would be the case. It's like what we talked about tonight. Well, Jesus said, right? Like it's not what goes into the mouth that defiles it, but what comes out of the mouth defiles it. So it's the content of the heart, which means if Christ is in your heart and on your mind, and that is what you are focusing on, then that's what will come out of your mouth.
Mmm.
Wait, I have a Bible verse that I want
The barn was red.
That I did. Hold up. It's Proverbs 27 something.
Oh, I think I know what you're about to
Possibly
say.
3. Nope, not 3.
18.
18. Good one.
Okay, you pastor.
I might not be right.
Nope, not.
What does it talk
18.
about?
1827.
Nope, 19. As water reflects the face, so one's life reflects the heart.
Okay. That reminds me of like what's it called? Mulan. Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Sorry, continue.
I just thought it deserved to be in here. I think it goes with it. You know, like the way that you live and the way that you speak and what you say reflects what Clay just did, like your heart posture and where you're at.
That's what we were talking about with the first table. Wow, that's what we were talking about with the first table was how I was saying how the people what's that saying? I always forget. It's like the people you surround yourself with.
You are who you hang
You
out
are
with.
you are who you hang out with.
First
Yes.
episode, and you're trying to figure it out.
You are who you hang out with. Yes. Oh my gosh. Y'all, I forgot the board was red.
Overuse that way too quickly.
Anyways, you are who you are whatever Dusty said. Then there was a saying that I heard recently. I think it's from the Lorax. It's like the tree falls the way it's leaning, or the tree falls the way it leans. Yeah. And then Kaylee brought up how like school, for example, is an environment where a lot of things are normalized, and how it's funny to cuss people out, and how it's easy to be hateful at school because everyone around you is hateful, or like things like that. And it's easier said than done, but those are the types of environments where you really have to watch what you're saying and what you're doing, especially because you can be the example of Christianity to some people at school, and like especially when you're very open about your spiritual life, you just like have a magnifying glass on you. Like Clay was talking about at the sermon, when you share the gospel and are a preacher, like people are watching you all the time.
It's like literally everything in Christianity is intentionality. I think what we get in trouble with most all the time.
Hey, they can't hear you, hon.
Everything about Christianity is intentionality. It's like
Oh,
I
the
think where we
camera's
get
still on me.
I think where we get in trouble so much of the time is we just assume that these things will happen because we're Christian.
Oh, that's a good point.
So it's like, well, since I'm Christian, if I get into a hateful environment, then I won't be hateful because I'm Christian. No.
No.
There has to be intentional self-control, and where I'm thinking about that, or I will be hateful. That's my nature. That's my default.
That's a good point. I think I was saying
Awesome.
something about. I think I was saying something about how. Oh, we were saying how being aware is a step. Like you have to be aware.
Mm-hmm.
Be aware of how what you say and what you do doesn't only affect you and your relationship with Christ, but can affect people around you.
Mm-hmm.
Ruthie?
Yeah. I was gonna. So like. Yeah. Wait, no, I have it, but kind of halfway. So basically, I think another thing. No, I've lost it. Like it's there, but it's not there. Like I know what I was gonna say, but now I don't know where I got what I was gonna say from. But it doesn't matter. So what I was gonna say was, I can't even start it off because I don't know.
Just like, go. Just hit the ground.
Hey, I believe in you.
Okay, so self-control. That's what it was. So today at school, today at school, I was sitting at lunch and there was a girl sitting there.
Oh, well.
And
The name drop.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sitting going on. Sitting at lunch, another girl sitting there.
Wow.
And
No one was standing.
let me get to that. So basically, what?
Talking to you?
You're like, I know, but you're like above it. Okay, speak. If they can't hear you, that's not.
So there was a girl sitting there, and nobody was talking about anything. We were all just pleasantly eating our lunch, and then
Pleasantly eating our. Sorry.
We're not
Someone get-
Yes, we are. So then all of a sudden, she is on TikTok, and then this random girl that's on TikTok that came up on her For You page, she just starts talking about how like her smile is weird and how she looks weird in this video. Some girl that she doesn't even know, and this girl was gorgeous, like, and she was like, I was like, yeah, but that girl's literally gorgeous, and she was like, yeah, but don't you think her smile's kind of weird? And so then I was like, nope. And then she just kept on talking about it. So I stood up and I walked away. And I threw away my trash because I had to take a second to calm down before I got angry, because it's a reoccurring thing that happens all the time where it's like constant judgment on somebody, no matter who it is or where it is. And I just, before I got so like angry where I said something I didn't want to say, I just had to. So I think sometimes not saying things.
Not saying anything is the
reflects-
best.
Yeah.
Yes, not saying something
That's
is not saying something is sometimes the best thing that you need to do. Because one time, I was talking to one of my friends and I was like, these people just gossip so much and I don't know what to do because I love them to death and I care about them and I love being around them because they're fun to be around and all this stuff. But they just are always judging someone or talking bad about someone. And she was like, and then I was saying how like sometimes people come up to me and they start talking about someone else and I don't know what to do because like
pulled into that at school.
right, especially at
easy
school.
to
That's what
get pulled
Kaylee was
into
saying too. Is like it's especially if I'm the only person they're talking to about that is like I don't just want to like walk up and walk away like mid sentence, because that's just kind of awkward. But I was saying, or she was telling me how sometimes just being like, just like, yeah, okay, and then just like leaving it alone and not saying anything at all.
I've kind of got to the point. This happened the other day at lunch again. Was pleasantly enjoying my food and
Sitting down.
Yep, sitting down. And these people brought up this conversation. They were just talking about people and, like you said, like just kind of gossiping and talking about drama. And then one of the girls beside me, she was like, "Well, what do you think about it? Like, don't you think this and this and this about this person?" Da 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 da. And I was like, to be honest, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about it at all. And they were like, "Oh, okay," and they stopped talking about it.
So, I think a lot of times we try to act like gossip is a female thing, but dudes do that a lot as well.
Yes.
I remember when I was in high school, not that I never partook of this, because I did from time to time, was not perfect. One of my tactics, if someone was trying to pull me into that, is I just say the most random possible thing I could possibly say. They're like, if you notice, Reggie,
We
horrible.
always use Reggie.
Reggie is
We love Reggie.
good or bad. Reggie is a horrible athlete, don't you think so, Clay? And I'd say something like, I think Johnny Depp's probably one of the best actors ever, something like that.
Deflecting.
I mean, yeah, because I mean, they gonna know what you're doing, but it kind of also draws attention to it. I don't.
It like calls them out without calling them out.
I guess, yeah. Or
I
just
like
confuses them.
Because I like people to.
Or like, did you
Totally call you slow.
notice how Patricia's hair looks stupid today? Hippopotamuses are unbelievably dangerous.
I want a hippopotamus for Christmas.
Do you think it's bad like calling them out? Like if I've been in situations where like I was with someone, I was like, because you're married. That's part of it. But I've been in situations with like closer friends, not like close friends, but closer friends, and they're like, man, she just can't get together. And I'm like, and I've been for like, let's be honest. Do you have together all the time? No. No, none of us do.
No. Desi, that is
Like,
Desi.
oh,
That's some Desi of this person.
Like when they're talking, well,
But like,
you?
not like, and like, no, I think not like you. Like, do we? I literally said, do we have together all the time? Because I don't want to act like I'm perfect either.
Right.
Like, and I'm pretty sure I shared this last time, but this girl was talking trash about this other girl, and I was like, something you think of someone thinks that way of you. Like if I was
the
like,
barn was red.
I was like, Adrian is so bossy. I actually think.
Okay.
Someone think,
And what about it?
About what Clay said, all jokes have some truth.
yeah.
Ooh,
But-
open you
yeah.
pastor.
But like Adrian is so bossy. Like I mean that, but I don't.
It's hypothetical.
It's hypothetical. It really is. I really don't think you're bossy, honestly. I know someone who is.
Amateur.
Anyways, and like someone thinks that way about me. Like anything you said, someone thinks that way about you. So like, anyways, but something just with like the topic of words, and we've all heard this growing up, like think before you speak, and like this week, since we talked about Sunday and sermon prep, what we're gonna be talking about all week, I've really tried to just like, what am I about to say, and who is it going to affect, and why is it going to affect, how is it going to affect, and like the way it has just changed what I've said and why I've said stuff. Like something I would usually say on the normal, I've just like didn't say. That's like that's something like actually instead of like oh yeah, I know what I'm about to say. No, think about it and think about what it's going to do.
I think a great question to also ask yourself is, if somebody said this to me or if somebody said this about me, how would I feel?
Yeah.
That
Ooh,
yes.
But that was not my main point whenever I got close to the mic. Earlier, Clay said that like when you become saved or when you're a Christian, you think it's just all going to come to you, and that's just not the case. And then that made me think about whenever we did the really, really long Bible study series on Colossians. And so in
LOL.
They're really, really, really,
Really long.
Did we ever finish that?
Probably not.
I'm just
Colossians
kidding. I hope we did.
Colossians 3:10 says, or at least in my version that I like to read, which is the New Living Translations, please don't hate me, is put on the new nature and be renewed as you learn how to know your Creator and become like Him. And one thing that I love is how it says put on, like put on clothes. You have to choose your
Like we're
outfit
not
every day.
naturally that way.
It's
I
just
remember
not
us talking
like
about that. Yeah.
You have to choose, like for clothes, you have to choose what clothes you're going to put on every day, and you have to choose what shoes you're going to put on. So you have to choose to put on the fruits of the spirit, and you have to choose to have that self-control. You have to choose to love. You have to choose to be patient. That's not just something that's going to come to you. Now naturally it might come to you over time after practicing it, but there's always going to be days that are hard simply because we're human and we have flesh and we're sinful. But yeah, that's just one thing that I wanted to add in there. You have to choose to do that.
Although they like choosing, you go first. Like I was trying over the summit. Wow. Okay.
Wow, words.
Over the summer, I was trying to create good habits and then like get rid of my bad habits. Like every summer, I'm like, I'm gonna turn taking care of myself a habit. Literally like the same like schedule, washing my face. That has been a habit because I do it so much. Like my shower schedule is a habit. Like I have so many just habits in my life that I've placed over the summer. Well, first thing I did was like research on it, like literally read papers on habits because like I wanted to know how I can create healthy habits in my life. Like I wanted to be sure that I was doing it correctly. And I read this thing and it said it takes you 3 times to do something to make it. Wait, it takes you 27 times to do something to make it a habit. So if I wanted to brush my teeth for like if I wanted to have the habit of brushing my teeth every day, I would have to do it 27 times in a row. Like so, like for 27 days. For 27 days, I would have to brush my teeth in the morning. It takes you 3 times. If you do not do that action 3 times, it breaks the habit.
Oh.
So if I go 27 days of brushing my teeth in the morning and then I stop for 3 days, that habit is broken. And it takes me 27 more days to correct that habit. And so like with like cussing, like those words, it takes you 27 days to be clean from that habit. And then you cuss 3 times. So let's say you don't cuss 3 times when you don't cuss 27 times when you want to. You cuss 3 times, broken habit. It's like that's how easy it is. So it really takes self-control, and it really takes you to choose what you want to do. You can't just be like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. No,
You have to like actually want it.
Yes, you have to think and be like, I'm choosing to put on this shirt that's not going to let me do this.
I think another important thing as well when it comes to wanting to break a habit or to create a habit is to not get mad at yourself. I feel like people expect a 180. They're like, oh, I want to wear pink from now on, and then they expect it just
Like I'm
instantly
pink now.
Yeah, no, that's just not how it happens. You have to work for it, and you have to choose to work for it, and you have to like another thing is it's really important to celebrate those small victories. Like if you are working on cussing, if that's your habit,
Working on not cussing.
or working
on not cussing.
If you're working on not cussing, working on not cussing. If you, I don't know, if you normally say 10 cuss words a day and you said 5 today,
That's a
then
step.
that's a step.
Because being aware of it is very important.
You have to celebrate those small victories, but also you can't justify your small victories.
I was gonna say, with the habit thing, you need to also know you say this a lot, you have to have the why behind your what.
Yeah.
Like,
Ooh.
with whatever habit it is, with whatever habit it is, you're trying to break, like, if you decide you're gonna stop cussing,
Have a reason.
yeah, like, am I just gonna stop cussing because someone told me I shouldn't cuss, or, like, do I actually know why I shouldn't be using that bad language? Yeah, like, do I actually want to, or does someone just tell me to, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Like, do you know why?
Jesse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. This just like just hit me for some reason. Like talking about the why. your why can't be something unstable.
Mm.
Like if like you got into a new you got into a new relationship and you got this boyfriend of a week and your boyfriend's like, I really want you to stop cussing, and you're like, I'm gonna stop cussing for him. Okay,
Ew,
but in, like, 3
cringe.
more weeks. No, I'm not kidding. 3 more weeks, you're gonna break up, and then you're gonna.
And
And then maybe you'll stop cussing because he really like spoke to you, but like truth is, or like, oh, I won't stop cussing to fit into this friend group or this and that. Like,
Ooh,
your
that's a good point,
why-
yes.
Your why has to be like always there. Like, oh, maybe like a good why is like your relationship with Jesus.
Ooh, just a thought, just a thought.
You can never build a house on sand.
Right.
Oh,
You have to have a good
Wait,
foundation.
This is what I did for your class after I was. It's blue
She just admitted that.
something 646 through 49. Look 646. I gotta check myself.
ooh. Does anyone have anything else to say on that question?
That was a good
Nope, I
question.
think that was a great question.
Yeah, because
Good
Anna
job.
Ruth suggested that question.
Anna
Okay,
Ruth.
this
She
question.
didn't have an answer for it at first.
That's true. She didn't even know what the question meant. This
Hold on.
question. Okay.
This is total sidebar. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Per usual, squirrel, but it's okay. It's your birthday.
I think Adri has exhibited a fantastic example of good leadership. And here's what I'm talking about. So like Adri owns this podcast, like she's the one that gets all this together and stuff. I think a lot of times when we talk about leadership, people think that leadership means I've got to do everything. I mean, delegating that out to Anna Ruth, will you write the questions for this week? Is a freaking example of what we're talking about here. Like, she don't have to come up with the questions if she thinks Anna Ruth would have very good questions.
Oh, I
I'm
see
saying?
what you're saying.
Delegating is leadership.
Yes, the leadership is Anna Ruth. Please give us questions this week.
Mm.
Good job,
Also,
Adrian.
Giving purpose to others is leadership.
Correct, 100%.
Thanks, guys.
That head just.
It's just getting bigger and
It's
bigger.
just they hyped me up before I started this, so that's why.
Last week, Adrian didn't say some very nice words to me, but I won't.
Oh my gosh! I was
Not
talking.
living the way you're preaching,
I was
Miss
talking.
Leader.
I was talking about
That's all I
that
have to say.
at my
That's
small
all I
group.
have to say.
Listen, they were. They were saying, they were like, what is the most hurtful thing you've said to someone recently or something? And I was
And
like,
the
I
point-
said something really mean
And
to Desi last
the
week.
way
And
I was the way I never struggled with that, and those 3 days I was struggling with that desperately. Like,
Well, I'm curious. I mean,
Okay,
it
I'll
was
share,
the,
I'll
we'll
share.
share. No, don't.
Should I share?
Actually, I don't care.
It's not, I don't, like, it didn't hurt me. It really didn't. It's just crazy that you said that when that was happening. It's like the devil was trying to get to me. You know what I'm saying?
For you.
Through me. That's insane.
Hey, I'm not gonna say it.
Okay, hold on. So let me elaborate really quickly. Desi and I are really close friends, and we just joke around like this all the time, and so it's never really been a problem until last week.
So I'll walk through.
The first thing she gets told as she walks
Like,
through
I'll
the door.
literally open the door and she goes, "Hey, Patty." And like I've never really struggled with like body image or like I'm gonna eat what I want and I'm gonna be active when I want. I've never
I feel so bad.
But then, like, those 3 days, I was like I felt really like just like big and unhealthy. I was like having problems with like self worth with like my body. And so I was like, you know what? I'm in a safe place. This is church. These people love me and they see me. Yeah, I was like, they see me kind of what I look like. Open the door. Hey, Patty. And I looked at her and I said, haha, I'm actually struggling with that right now.
Listen, y'all, I actually felt so bad, and I hugged Desi, and I said I was sorry so many times. I felt so bad.
Yeah,
Oh my
we're
gosh.
good. I knew she didn't mean it like that. I really didn't. I was like, this is so funny. Like, the devil's trying every string right now. I was like,
This goes right back to the whole point of the question of how words are
Yeah.
small words.
Right. My perspective has been changed.
What's the next question?
Okay, next question is, okay, I'm trying to figure out if do y'all want the same question as the first? Because I have a lot of questions.
do the
That I
best one you
wrote.
Do
think.
the best
Yeah,
one.
we want the best.
I'm learning. I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah, we need a
I know it's
This is my
it's
first
about
time being
20,000
like
degrees.
that.
Okay, so actually I'll ask y'all this question because I'm kind of What?
I said this for much butt spell.
I'll ask y'all this question because I wasn't gonna ask this question because I feel like it's kind of
Just
hard
ask
to
the question.
answer, but because it doesn't make sense. But it says, why do few words sometimes hurt worse than lots of words?
Oh, this is my question.
This goes right back to hey fatty.
Wait, what is this? It's 2 words and it hurt real bad.
So, jokes are a good example of this because a lot of jokes are like loser or like you don't mean it, but like
Nerd.
or you're like,
Emo.
or like nerd or like oh your hair like blah 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 like stuff we talked about tonight, and like the person will laugh like I did, but like in reality, and sometimes they're not like me and be like, hey, I'm actually struggling with that. They're like, oh, it's like what Clay said. There's like meaning, but like
Just actually think that about me. Like
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
said, if I said Desi, your hair looks bad.
I'm just kidding.
I'd be like, I know.
And then like
Being self-conscious.
and be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm gonna think about that for the rest of the day after someone says that.
And like sometimes like that's someone's last straw. Like they've had like
Ooh.
a long day of like
The barn
oh
was red.
blah, 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 and then someone said something so small like hey,
That's
it's like last straw.
I feel like that's another thing. Growing up, my mom always told me you never know what's going on behind closed doors, and so that's always
No.
when it comes to something that, like when you said thinking about what you're going to say. I always try to think about I don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
Right.
Is this going to affect?
Right.
Could that affect something going on?
I don't know why I'm playing paper rock scissors with you. I run this. Like, what? And Ruth and I both had something to say, and she was trying to get. And anyway, I was gonna say, how Desi was saying, you were saying
She was
It
saying.
might be their last straw.
might be their
The
last.
jokes.
Oh, okay.
Jokes.
How sometimes like this that might be their last straw, and the smallest thing, might be it for them. And sometimes I was like I just sat here thinking how sometimes I just get in these moods where everyone just makes me mad. I'll go into fifth period sometimes and talk to Grace and be like, I'm so mad. And then she'll be like, why? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just
No.
not.
You don't talk to just Grace, you talk to the whole group. There's like
Yeah,
me,
That's-
you talk
Jordan,
to the whole
2 other
class.
boys, and then like she
Yeah.
comes to that little corner of the class, she's like,
so mad. But
Hey.
if we're being honest, you're the way when you are angry, your tone or not your tone, your volume gets a little loud. So therefore, you kind of do talk to the whole class.
And that's okay because I'm an open book
You're
and I'm
being
okay
real.
with that.
Everybody needs to.
everybody like
Everyone needs to
appreciates
know.
being real and
Right. Sometimes everyone just needs that,
Anyway,
Yeah.
where were you going with that?
Anyway, and sometimes like people don't realize that sometimes when the smallest things are said to me, it just sets me on fire and it just upsets me and it makes me mad. Or sometimes when I'm having like just a bad day emotionally, and someone says something and they don't know like what I'm going through or that I had a bad night
Yeah.
the night before and they say something and it just like makes me bawl my eyes out or makes me tear up. That's why I have been like, hey, I don't know what they are going through. I don't know what happened to them last night. So that's why I try to be nice to people and I try to be aware of what I'm going to say and think about what I'm going to say. And like Desi said, we've grown up with the saying, what did you say?
Stories.
think before
No,
you
no, no.
speak.
Think before you speak. And then I also thought about the saying that we've been told a lot is treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah, the
And
rule.
the golden rule.
That's not just something that you were taught. It's biblical.
That's biblical. Okay, youth pastor. Grace?
I don't even know.
Oh, okay.
I had a thought and
Everything?
it left
Yeah,
me.
I know. Okay.
Oh.
I know you don't.
No.
You said. I didn't know. Okay. Wait. No, I do know what I was gonna say.
Okay, go.
Small words, big effect. So, big impact, whatever. So we're talking about in my small group too. This is gonna sound a little. What are you doing?
People have cross necklaces.
Oh, I have a
Mine's
Psalm
not a cross.
56:3
Mine's not a cross.
on mine. When I'm afraid, I put my
Mine's a
trust
cross
in you.
because I put Jesus on my
No, when I'm afraid, I put my trust in. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, we're talking about
Who
how
gave this to
there's
me?
this video that they play at school they did play at school at one point, and it was basically where this man committed suicide, and I know
Wow.
it got real crazy about it.
Started off with the
But
bang right there.
No, I have a good point behind this. In his note that he left, he said if someone will say like hi to me and smile at me on my way, then I won't do it. So whether or not someone actually did say hi or not, like you get my point. Like it doesn't always
Sometimes
have to be
sometimes
negative
those
words.
simple
Like,
things are like,
sometimes
yes.
literally saying like, "Hey, how are you?" to somebody at school, at the store, wherever you're at, can make the biggest difference, and you have no clue. And like, what does it take for you to say, "Hey, how are you?"
Right.
Or like, "How's your day?"
That's a
going?"
really good
Or,
point,
Are
yes.
you okay? Like, what is it? If that's not taking any time out of your way.
One thing that that touches on the saying "hey" is we went to Mexico this past summer.
Oh yes, I
and
know what you're
walking down the and Clay, me, Adrian,
And-
Clay, and Ruth, you're not a Christian.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
We went to Mexico.
We went to Mexico, and walking down the. Okay, so these people, they hardly have anything. They basically have nothing. And we're walking down the street. You don't know who these people are. Obviously, there's a language barrier because.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Wow, Clay.
Obviously, there's a language barrier, but no matter what,
Not with Adrian.
It doesn't matter what you look like. If you look like you have a lot, if you look like you have nothing, it does not matter. Everybody said.
That's what. Yes.
Everybody said, "How are you?" And that's one thing that was just so. One of the biggest mind boggles for me when we went was because that's so uncommon here.
Nobody
Like,
does that.
you
When they
walk
do,
down-
it's like fake. You
right?
know,
Or you walk down the
like
street
social.
and especially because
We don't even walk.
and so a lot of the times when I'm host or I'm serving, I'll be like, "Hey, how are you?" And they just go straight into, "I want this to drink," and I'm like, "Okay." And so it's just very
never,
much
"How are
not
you?"
our culture, especially, and it's just so crazy that
Get fired.
yeah, it takes a lot of self control.
I would make them.
Patience.
I would make them speak to me.
Usually I go, "Hey, how are y'all?" And they're like, "I want this drink," and I'm like, "I'm doing good, thank you." And then they're like, and I'm like, "What can I get you to drink?"
That's so
Sweet tea? Okay.
Sweet thing.
That's like for what he said.
But anywho, that's besides the point. For birds, especially when they're hungry.
Hangry,
That's
they're
a
real.
Good point.
Yeah,
That's Anna Ruth.
it's not for the weak.
Anna Ruth,
But-
Desi.
It's
Yeah,
just,
but
Good
I don't actually.
it's just
I mean-
crazy that we have so many resources and we just have so much more here in America than they do in Mexico. And
You think that's part of the problem?
yes,
We're
honestly,
spoiled.
we're spoiled.
Yeah, we're brats.
And we're rats because we get everything we want for the most part. And
You have everything you
you
need.
have everything you need. You could have everything you want if you work for it. Or some people could have it handed to them. And in Mexico, that's just, at least from what I experienced, that's just not how it is. And it's so corrupt over there that they don't have that opportunity. And honestly, some of them are probably constantly fearing for their life, depending on decisions that they've made in the past. And I'm not saying that's not here either, but the way that they have all of that, and
It's
they
more forgiving over here.
it's
Cause like there's more opportunities and more like I feel like it's more forgiving over here. There's like we have access to more things. Like if you mess up, it's like, oh, don't care. Like they would take you.
right.
Like when you have nothing and then you have like the community around you has nothing to offer you.
Yeah.
Once you fail once, there's no grace. Like
Yeah.
around here, it's like, oh, you
There's a
messed up.
cushion.
You can try this. You can try this. It's like you messed up. You're like
Yeah.
You're a goner.
And
You
like
don't need-
another thing is like they have nothing. They have nothing, but they were so willing to give us everything. And
That's a really good
that
point.
was just, and like, especially when we went to the canal. Like the canal they've definitely grown since, at least from what I've heard, because that was my first time going, so I don't know what it used to look like. But from whatever they've grown, but still, their growth is still nothing compared to what we have.
Right.
And the fact that they have absolutely nothing compared to what we have, but were so willing to give us everything. Like, I think I spent the entire time at the canal crying.
and like just the thought, and like I would walk down the streets crying because to see what it looks like, and then but they're so willing to give us everything. It's just and so willing to give everybody everything. It's just well, I wish we had that here,
And
but I think it's important. It's,
sorry.
like Clay always says, you get what you put in. And so if that's something that I'm wanting, then that's something that I need to be intentional and put in to my current state. Not current state, current
Setting.
setting.
And like Grace was saying, how they were just willing to give us everything. The amount, the little that they had, but the amount of joy that they had was, it just like was crazy
They're all
because
so happy.
they really were. It was insane to me. Like there, okay, so when we went to the canal, there was this little playground.
I almost saw a little bit.
Taco.
What?
That's not what she said.
Say taco.
Taco.
Taco. Canal.
It's Hispanic Heritage Month. Leave me alone. Okay, anyway.
Never mind.
What? Hey.
My mom told me, since we're filming, to tell them, I said to her, you have to load the dishwasher before you go to bed and go feed Pearl, our dog, not like the person.
I was like,
Is
Pearl.
that where she was? I've got Pearl caged.
Stop freaking out, I'm just kidding.
Anna Ruth got tired of Pearl getting more gold stars than her.
Caged her.
She caged her.
Slings a cup of dog food in there.
You gotta go start the dot.
But anyway, I was saying
Don't exist.
how we went, how when we went to the canal, there was this little, there was
Okay,
this
you gotta
little,
quit.
there was this, how we, when we went to the canal, when we went to the canal, there was this, there was this little, there was this,
Okay, you're sorry.
how when we went to the canal, there was this little playground, and whenever we, like, I know Ashley, shout out to Ashley Reeves, we love you. Ashley, Grace, my mom, me, like anyone who was there, we would just ask the kids if they wanted anything from like the little like store that they had, and we would buy them like chips and a drink. They were the happiest people alive.
It was like $2.
Right. Everything in Mexico costs so cheap. I want to live there. Like, it's actually insane. I'm sorry. Everything's so cheap. And then I came here and I was like, oh my gosh, the US sucks. Okay, anyways, I'm being hated on. Anyway, and then just that little playground, they were so happy with the little that they had. I'm done talking. Does anyone else have anything to say? I know. Clay's being mean. Being fake.
You can tell. He gets that look.
Hey,
like he's not really looking.
It's your
at you.
birthday.
It's
It's your birthday. We're gonna party like it's your birthday.
What's the rest of that?
Not podcasting.
That's right now.
Hey, guys, I have another question. Are you ready?
Wait, no, I have.
Okay, you go, girl. Hey, you go, girl.
I'm just kidding.
Go, girl.
Okay, so while you were speaking on that, okay, someone get duct tape or something.
I'm not doing anything.
You know what we would hear if you did get duct tape?
I think it would get louder, wouldn't it?
Probably.
So, like,
Continue.
So some scripture,
anxiety
some
meds are
scripture that
kicking
came up while y'all were like in my brain while y'all were speaking
While
was
y'all
the
were
one where that we did a Bible study on it recently where people who have nothing, what's the scripture like people who have nothing.
Oh,
Fall,
yes.
like it's
Yes.
easier for them to believe in Jesus because they have nothing.
No.
Like
Like, much is given, much is expected.
no.
It's like people that have
act like
nothing.
they are willing to give everything. But people have,
No, it's like it was scripture. It was like
well, yeah.
the scripture says it was like
About the
those who have nothing. Yeah, it's about the fear. Like those who have nothing don't have anything to lose. So like those who have nothing. What?
like about the Pharisee
No, it's about like being like we're
with the coin.
no. It was about like how if you have nothing, like when when God presents himself, when you have nothing to lose, it's easy to grab onto God when you have nothing. But when you have everything, when you have nothing, there's nothing for you to give up to God. Like give up, like when you have nothing, there's nothing to idolize over God. But when you have so much, there's so much to idolize over God. Like with us,
Ooh,
we
that's a
can
good
idolize
yes.
our phone, our money,
Great point.
our house, or like, and then like in Mexico they have nothing, so it's so easy for them to just like follow God because they have nothing distracting them from.
Yeah.
We did the scripture on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things distracting us and pulling away because we have so much.
Right.
Like, how the poor, it's easier for the poor to follow. Like, it's better to be poor than rich. That scripture, that's what it said. It's better to be poor than rich. You know what scripture I'm talking about? That's what it reminded me. And the second scripture,
Vaguely.
we literally did a Bible study on it like 2 weeks
It's
ago.
been a Monday or two.
And then the second scripture was the when the not like when the boss gave 2 of his workers money and one went and go and like made more with it and one just like
Matthew 25.
yeah, that's another.
This is the parable of the talents.
Parable
That's
of
what I was
talent.
trying to say. That's the second scripture that was. Let me find.
Okay, here's my next question for you guys is why do we think we tend to focus more on what people say to us rather than what we say to people?
Oh, this is my favorite question so far.
Oh, I didn't even put the camera on me. You don't have
What
any.
is the question? Why do we tend to focus on what
Why do we tend to
others say
focus?
us instead of what we say to people?
Why do we tend to focus? Why do we you? Wow. Why do you think we tend to focus more on what people say to us rather than what we say to people?
Because you're so like people, especially like you said earlier, kind of in the U.S. Like people that are as privileged as we are tend to make themselves the victim. Like in every situation.
That's a good point. Yes.
I mean, you're constantly because like Desi was saying and like you were saying because we have so much. Whenever you feel like a little bit of that has been taken away from you, you focus so hard on that, but you're never thinking about what you're taking away from other people.
Yeah.
I think also, as humans in general, I think we're so quick to judge others. So we care more about what others are saying and we're so quick to listen to what others are saying about us or about others, so that we can be like, oh, so and so said this about so and so. But they call themselves a Christian. Like, what are they doing? Blah blah blah. But we're so quick to judge. But if we focus on our own words, that means we have to do self-reflection, and that means that we have to realize that we are just as bad, in some situations. And so, yeah.
That reminded me of something Matt said. I'm pretty sure it was Matt. Matt talked about something. Okay. He said, you know what I'm about to say?
No.
No, Desi.
He said the people that are not greedy, it's going to be easier for them to point out when people around them are greedy. And the people that maybe don't gossip, it's going to be easy for them to be like, they're such a gossip. Or anything with that nature. The people that don't have an issue disobeying their parents, they disobey their parents. Like, because you don't struggle with that. And I think it's kind of the same thing, like why you focus on what other people are saying, because like it's correlating but not.
I think one thing Matt said it on Sunday, and it goes along with what you're saying is I could be wrong. He may not have said this on Sunday, and I may have dreamt this, but it's okay to judge as long as you hold yourself to that same judgment.
Oh yeah, he did say that.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not.
And he was saying how sometimes we judge people on things that we don't do because it's easier to. Yeah, sure.
That's a camera.
Huh? Yeah, I was worried about the camera. Sorry. Grace. Oh, I thought you had something to say.
She's pulling.
Yeah, look it up. Let me see. We love to expose without feeling shame.
Yeah.
Most of us are keenly aware of other people's sin and not our own.
Kaylee was saying when I asked this question, she was saying how it's just in our nature for us to be selfish. So we just don't even think about what. Sorry, Grace is distracting me. we don't even think about what we say to other people because like we can't feel their feelings, we can only feel our own. And so especially because sometimes like this has happened to me before.
We're so self-centered.
Yes, being self-centered is also an issue, but fun fact. But sometimes, like I may have like said something hurtful to someone, but my intentions weren't to hurt them. But say they were to tell me like, "Hey, this hurt me," and you were like, "Oh, but those weren't my intentions." Sometimes, and like even if they say they like hadn't told me that it hurt their feelings, I would have never known.
Communication is key.
Right. That. And I don't know where I was going with this because I said it when we were first table. But Desi has something to say.
Don't leave me. Oh my gosh. So sometimes this is like just the first thing where you were talking. I was thinking about this. We think more about what we say, how it affects us, than how it affects them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing I was bringing up about how like what you said, you didn't intend it to. You didn't like mean for it to hurt them, but it did.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I was watching this video and it was about relationships and it was about how like how I give off love, like the way I love somebody might not be the way they feel loved.
Ooh.
And so when I'm trying to love somebody, especially in like a relationship, because me and Jordan are like completely like opposite in the spectrum. So when I want to show Jordan love, I can't show Jordan about how I show love because he will not understand.
That's not
my
how
love
he
that
feels
way.
loved,
He,
right.
When I do that, he'd be like, "What the heck?" I have to show him love through the way he takes love.
Right.
So he can feel love. And so like when you're having a conversation with somebody, you need to like, how can I say this for them to understand it the way I want them to understand it?
Right.
Instead of how can I say it the way how I originally say it, or like how my brain says it, or what makes sense to me, what makes sense to them, like how being like self-centered and all that. We have to think, how can I say this for them to understand instead of how can I say this for me to understand? Because you already understand, you're saying it.
Need to be winding down.
This is something that Clay says, or that you've said like a lot recently. I feel like I've heard it a lot recently. Sometimes perception is more important than truth. And I think that's like a big thing when it comes to words, is it's not always what you intended to say. Like I see what you're putting when you're saying you didn't intend it that way, but they took it that way. But sometimes it is more important what they heard than what you intended for them to hear.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People's feelings don't necessarily care about your truth.
Yeah.
Like the way what you say to someone, the way it makes them feel, it doesn't matter how you intended it. It matters how they heard it. Now,
That's
sometimes you can't control that, and some people are just ridiculous. But for a large part, I think it is prudent of us to keep that in mind and like try to work around. Like I'm really bad about the latter of what I just like. People are ridiculous, so I don't really care how you feel, because you're probably ridiculous. The problem with that is I become my own judge, and that's a problem. I think a safer, better, more wise approach to that is to assume that their feeling is 100% valid, and then me work backwards from that, rather than just assuming that their feeling is invalid and then working through that.
Yeah.
You would want to think you would want someone to think your feelings are
Right.
Right. Well, I think to touch on that, oh my gosh, don't leave me.
I'm telling you, it's late, it all leaves you.
Yes. To touch on that,
Nope.
a lot of the time, people like I can say, "Hey Clay, your shirt looks nice," I don't know, something, and like you may not have heard all that. You may have just heard that I said, "Hey Clay," and you didn't hear the shirt part. You know, like I could say something and you not hear all of it, and so I feel sometimes
or like
it's miscommunicated, and so especially through text. Text is the worst way to do it.
Very true.
Communication. But anyway, so I feel like when it goes to assuming that people's thoughts are valid or their feelings are valid off the bat, they may have heard it differently than the way you said it or the way you intended
to. Yes.
And so you have to, like you said, work backwards simply because.
Desi.
Just like a good example of what you're talking about, like you might say something to him, but you only hear half of it. Like if you were wearing a sweater and I said, "Oh my gosh, that material's awful," but that sweater is so cute. The person will obviously heard that material's awful and not hear. Yeah. And so like you just have to be careful about how you say
Right.
it instead of what you're saying.
Our culture is horrible listeners.
Yes.
So most people are listening for what they're about to say, so they don't even hear what you say.
Ooh.
Oh, this is something about listening. Some people,
Ooh.
I bring this up at daycare. I bring this up at school. I bring this up in like, small group. Because it's like this is something that like blew my mind. Because I really have to check myself on this. But some people listen to reply instead of just listening to listen. Like
Or to understand.
or like just understand. They listen. They listen to like have something to say. Or like what can Adrian say that I can say next? Which is not bad, but like they spend too much time just trying to think of what they're gonna say next instead of actually listening. And like that's
That's
something
a good
I actually
point.
struggle with. So like in here I have to be like, Desi, it's not your turn to speak. What are they saying? And then after they finish their train of thought,
Wow, word.
train of thought.
It is
And then I
bedtime.
think, okay, what can I say?
Right. Okay, listen.
We gotta close.
To end off with the banger, okay? My last question is, what is one good thing? What is one bad thing that someone has said to you that has impacted you? Everyone's gonna go around and say one thing. Grace.
Fast. Speed round.
Oh, I'm not. No.
Grace,
I'll
Ruthie.
go first.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I'll go first.
Okay, go.
I'm
Go,
not
Dad.
one good. Okay.
Yes.
One good thing would be that I'm like.
Aw.
I just like.
So sweet.
And then one bad thing.
LOL.
I'm just kidding.
This
I'm
is
not
where
gonna
Adri
use
exits
that.
the room.
I'm not gonna
Lol.
use that.
Lol.
One bad thing is probably just. I mean, like I don't want to get into this, but like people would make fun of me about how I speak, like all through elementary school and a little bit middle school.
Clay, do you have anything to say?
People don't say bad things about Clay. It's Clay minor.
Clay minor.
Or vice versa.
Clay
People say
minor.
good things. I'm just kidding.
Desi,
Ruthie?
me and you have said plenty of bad things
Yeah.
about Clay.
Okay. Yeah, we got through our times.
We all have that phase. It's okay.
We've all had
Okay, so my my bad
Ain't here to
thing.
be your friend.
My what?
Hashtag Kevin Stewart.
Ain't here to be your friend.
Hashtag youth pastor. My bad thing is sometimes I get told that I'm too dramatic and and listen, guys, I get it. Sometimes I am dramatic, but like in like a jokingly way, right? But no, but like for example, sometimes when my feelings are genuinely hurt and then I'm told like, oh, you're just being dramatic,
Oh.
but like it actually
Those are your real feelings.
Right. So I'm like, oh, that kind of hurts me. Okay, well then good things are one time or recently one of my really good friends was like, they were like, because Adri is like our person, talking about like their family and stuff. And so she was like, Adri's like our person. Like we see her and they know her because of us. Like she's our person. And then, so that made me feel good because that made me feel very loved and very like cared for. And then another good thing I have is when Clay started talking about me. And then when they started talking about me and guys, it was so nice. They started saying like, everyone has a little part of Adri in them. And how I was
All
like,
they gotta
glitter.
do is rewind.
No, we weren't recording
We
that.
weren't recording.
No, but they were saying how
I would never say that on tape.
I'm a part. Wait, what did y'all say? Like everyone has a part of Adri in them. And
Yeah,
not
you're
just-
like glitter.
and I'm like glitter, and I stick to everyone. Okay. Okay, Grace.
I think honestly, I can't. Oh, I think my bad thing. This isn't necessarily it's like with my family is when whenever I feel or whenever my family members tell me I'm a disappointment. That's probably one of the worst thing that you could say to me is I'm a disappointment.
That's a good point.
I
Yeah.
have a bad thing for you, but I can't say it.
Say it, please.
I can't.
I think I know.
No, I
what
don't
it
hear
is.
it,
I
kid.
think I know what it is. Tell me after.
Some people want to be violent.
You can delete it. I don't know.
They also can't
We
hear
can
you.
just, we can
Just tell her
tell
after.
then you can talk. I think my bad
It's
thing.
not good for me.
I think if it's the one I'm thinking of, I want to say it, but I can't say it on here. But
Okay.
nonetheless, is whenever a family, because I don't care what everybody else thinks about me, but specifically my family.
Right.
If you say I'm a disappointment, that hurts me
Right.
bad.
Well, hold on. Let's investigate that for a second.
Okay. Gosh, no,
Do you, when you say that they say do they say you're a disappointment, or they say I'm disappointed in you? Because those are two very different things.
majority of my family.
It's like saying that was stupid and going, you are stupid. Those are
Okay,
two very different.
one family member.
I'm gonna get in trouble with my boy.
One family member of mine.
Okay.
You're a disappointment.
Oh god.
Control, intentionality.
Clay has unspoken beef.
Anywho, good. To
Good,
get the
yes.
back is I have two. Along with what Desi said, when people call me a light, that's a huge thing for me. But one that Clay likes to say is you're exceptional. That's
I like that too.
always,
Yes,
that
youth
always-
pastor.
That always
Hey.
gives my heart a little hug.
Me too. I like that one.
Oh, that's
Ruthie?
And you were like, I don't know.
I
You
didn't know
stupid.
that. I didn't see
For the
it.
bad one, you said that one.
No, I didn't.
One time, it wasn't necessarily like what this person said to me, and I can't say it because it involves bad words. But
LOL.
I'll be the
they didn't say it to me. They said it about me to
Someone else and you heard about it.
someone else, and I heard about it, and I know that it was said. And it wasn't necessarily what they said, but it was like the fact that that person was saying it. That, like,
Ooh,
cut me so
yes.
deep, because I was like,
That's a good
I
point.
never expected that. Because I don't know who I was talking about this to earlier. Maybe it was you. It was somebody. And I was talking about how, like, if there's someone that's a... Nothing? Oh. If there's someone that's a stranger... Oh, maybe my small group. If there's, like, a stranger that comes up to me and they're like, you're ugly. I'm be like, okay, thanks.
But then if
But
it's someone
I
that you
don't
like
care.
know
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
you know,
Because that person
right.
has no influence in my life. I don't have personal connection. I
Right.
have
Yes,
not
yes,
even
yes, yes,
tried-
yes, yes,
But
yes.
if you came up to me and you said, you look bad today, I'd be like, oh my gosh, maybe I do look bad today. And, like, that would hurt my feelings.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was that situation with that. And then also, if someone ever tells me, like, my family's told me this before, or, like, friends, or whoever it is, if someone's telling me I'm not trying hard enough,
That's a good
good one.
one.
like, because, I don't know, that one just sucks. Like, I don't like that one. Or, not sucks, that one hurts. But, my mom might not say that anymore.
Yeah, my
Good.
mom did too.
I said it the other day, and I got in serious
What'd you
trouble.
say?
I got in serious trouble.
Who think our mom? Man, this sucks.
That on Julian.
Simmer.
At Jessica Stewart.
Yeah, we need to have a
At Myra Vega too.
Kid not big.
Okay, Ruthie,
But
your good
my-
thing.
My good one? Oh, yeah. One time.
Good one?
About me?
Oh my god.
Get out the
Okay,
lid,
go.
Get out the
Go
door.
start. Okay, one time, this is actually kind of recently too, but one of my teachers told me that she's got a daughter who's like 4 years old, and she told me that she hopes her daughter grows up to be just like me.
Oh,
And that
That's
was
so
one of the most
sweet. When
touching things I've ever, and I was like, are you being serious? And she was like, yeah, like, why would I not be? And I was like,
it's
Just
also
kidding.
it's also a really good thing when
She'll
teachers
grow anything.
when teachers are like just people in general tell me that I'm a really sweet person and they're just like, hey sweet thing. Like today I went to hug Stephanie and she was like, hey sweet thing, and it just makes me feel like when people tell me that I'm a sweet person, you know? But then I have been told before.
Oh,
I have been told before that I care too much and that I can't ever take a
oh,
joke. And like
I
all
hate
that
those ones.
whenever
Tell me I care too much, I'm like, you not saying
whenever I
it.
get told anything about my emotions or the way that I express myself, that hurts my feelings. So if you're my friend, please don't ever do that to me.
I think another good one is when people say you're a good friend, simply because
That's it, yeah.
not just because it's a compliment, but because growing up I did not have the best of friends, and so to think that I have the opportunity to be a good friend to somebody and I didn't ever get to feel that way growing up, it's that's why it feels so good. It's because I didn't have that.
Okay, this is my last one. This is a good one. that I
Last
love.
one.
Someone told me one time that I don't know if this person meant like in life or like in their spiritual walk, whatever it was, but someone told me one time that I make them better, and that was one of most favorite things that I've ever heard someone say to me. Is it like, you know,
You make them want to be a better person.
or
Is that what you said?
no,
Oh.
they literally just said, "You make me better." Like,
Right.
and I was just
So
like,
you influence them.
yeah, and I was just like, oh my god, like,
They don't always mean that they like you.
Oh, Clay.
yeah, it
Clay
didn't
just
mean
said that doesn't always
actually.
mean that they like you. Wow. Really, really
I
just.
have one more.
Oh, T.
It
Okay.
didn't mean that.
I've
Spoiler alert.
yeah, dude, yeah, I
Lol.
remember. I know what you're talking about.
Does he?
Okay. So one that I really appreciate, which I got recently, was I appreciate your honesty. When like, I guess it's not like I don't even know, but when like someone tells me that, it's like I have a whole story, but we don't have time. I'll tell you. Just like when someone says like I appreciate your honesty, that's just like
That's a good
I
one.
like that.
they're
one, too.
recognizing.
No one's ever told me they appreciate my honesty before.
Most people want you to lie to them.
And that's so bad for me because I just don't do that.
Because
I
they
mean,
want you
like,
to tell you what they want to hear and not
Yes,
what they
and I
really want to
and the
hear.
thing about that's
Ooh,
my
that's
favorite
my
things about
problem.
you, Clay, is like as much as I hate it sometimes and like it gets on my nerves. I don't think you've ever told me something I wanted to hear before, like ever.
That
But it's always been
right.
something that changes you for the better.
And I've always
Mm.
needed it, even though I didn't want it.
That's very true. I struggle with that too.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up the 6th episode of The Inside. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned.
I'm glad.
This-
Bye, guys.
This Ruthie?
Yep. Can I start it?
Yeah.
With a we.
Yep, you go, girl.
We
Love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.